Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Florida's ground zero for the nursing home. I mean, we're God's waiting room.
Stupid.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? It's Friday, and not a good day. So we're gonna get into all the Supreme Court decisions that were, not unexpected, but similarly disastrous anyway. As to, the decision yesterday as well on affirmative action. So we're going to talk about student loan debt forgiveness and, of course, how Republicans, how the Supreme Court, the conservative, ideologically conservative Supreme Court, has also made discrimination against gay people legal. So, oh, great. Wonderful. So here we go. There's something like, kicking off the Independence Day weekend and holiday by saying you are now free to discriminate against gay people. So a big gift to all the chuds out there. Lovely. We're going to be talking about that. We are also, of course, going to mention quick mention, I should say, about the Trump declassification order. What order? Exactly. We also have cops behaving badly, which is not a surprise. We have Dylan Mulvaney, who also recently spoke out. She has broken her silence. And, of course, we'll be talking about that. All right. So, with that said, it's... We're gonna start out with the bad news. We're gonna hit the bad news first, because there's plenty of it. All right. Okay. All right. The ideologically conservative Supreme Court has struck down President Joe Biden's student debt forgiveness plan. In a not-so-surprising 6-3 decision, boy, we've been seeing a lot of them, the court ruled that Biden lacked the authority to cancel debt under the 2003 HEROES Act. Now, that act, which was passed by Congress, states that the president can give the Secretary of Education broad powers to change rules of federal student loans during a national emergency, which, again, we had a national emergency it was called COVID, whether or not people actually believed that it was an emergency or not, the government declared it an emergency, which would make, put that act into effect. And so now, again, the law says that the Secretary of Education may waive or modify any statutory or regulatory provision related to federal student loans as may be necessary to ensure that borrowers are not placed in a worse position financially because of a national emergency. So now, of course, waive, modify, well, they waived some of the loans, or at least attempted to, and modified the loans by modifying up to $20,000 of those loans out of existence. But apparently the conservatives were not buying that argument. So now, that said, let's get into more of the argument the administration was making. Basically, hey, they said, look, we can forgive a portion of these student loans, these federal student loans, okay, up to $20,000, $10,000 for most, but again, all based on federal Pell Grants, which are given to low-income students. And we have that authority because we're, one, in a pandemic, which is a national emergency, but also that if you have them pay back the full portion after this emergency, then that will harm borrowers. So, okay, now, look, that makes sense to me. Now, the thing is, the administration, I believe, was correct, and I'm going to give you some economic numbers to show that, yes, having to pay back these loans will harm borrowers and even the economy at large. So, according to experts like Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics, borrowers for federal student loans faced an average $250 a month in extra payments when the pandemic relief pause on interest and required payments comes to an end after more than 3 years. And that's without any sort of forgiveness. The reduction of spending money in the pockets of borrowers will likely drag down consumer spending, reducing economic growth as measured by the GDP by a couple of tenths of 1%. Now you might think, well, a couple of tenths of 1%, how much damage that could do? Actually quite a bit. Because again, raising interest rates, what, Jerome Powell had been doing at the Federal Reserve, that had a noticeable effect on jobs. Okay, a noticeable effect on prices. And so, yes, it has had quite an effect, even these small changes. Okay, so now, in a more typical time, as Andy noted, that's not really a big deal. The economy can digest that gracefully. But in the current environment, where the economy is weak as it is, recession risks as high as they are, a couple of tenths of 1% can matter. And that was, again, just a couple of months ago. Okay? Marcia Steinbaum, an economist and economics professor at the University of Utah, predicted the U.S. could be looking at a, quote, pretty severe fiscal contraction, which the borrowers begin making loan payments again. Quote, I think it's clear that the fact that people have more spending power means that they can spend more, and that's good for aggregate demand. It's just a more onerous way of operating a lending portfolio, of trying to collect debt that fundamentally cannot be collected, and trying to squeeze the borrowers as much as possible in order to make that debt collectible. And that's very bad for the macro economy. Now, in previous interviews, also, they noted that the repayment pause had not had any sort of negative impact on the economy. So, not paying loans at all, by the way, had no negative effect on the economy, and then, in fact, has roughly put $500 billion back into the pockets of borrowers, according to the Department of Education. So, people not paying the loans has actually been good for the economy. So what do you think is going to happen when, again, we're going to have to start repaying the loans, okay, in October, not having any of just having the complete full balance that was due, which, again, higher payments, that means higher payments when you have a bigger balance, that's going to be pretty disastrous for the overall economy. In fact, Thomas Simons, U.S. economist with the investment bank Jefferies, no relation, said, I've been anticipating a pretty significant impact on consumer spending as soon as the payments start again. My suspicion is that most of the folks who are going to have to start paying again have limited capacity to handle the increased expense while navigating other financial challenges. I expect that this is going to be the tipping point that puts the economy into a recession. It sounds great. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. All the people that are screaming, yeah, you should pay it back. You shouldn't have any sort of payment pause. You should pay the whole thing back plus interest. You took out the loan, you pay it. Well, you're going to be really, really upset a few months from now, when the economy takes a crap off a cliff. Congratulations. Well done. Again, right now, you have so many people a huge chunk of the 40 million Americans that, would have, that are impacted by this, okay? A lot of them are saying, we're not ready to restart payments. We still have inflation that's fairly high. We still have, issues with not being paid enough, jobs are not paying as much as they should. We're having a lot of different issues here. Financially, we are not ready to repay these loans. We can't do it. Now, that said, Simmons mentioned that, quote, despite the student loan moratorium, Americans mostly didn't bank their savings, so they'll likely have to cut back on other things. Travel, restaurants. To fit resumed loan payments into their budgets, belt-tightening could hurt an economy that relies heavily on consumer spending. So this is how it affects you guys. Okay, those of you who are not people who owe student loans, who would be helped by this, you're going to be harmed when the economy contracts. Simple as that. You're going to be harmed when people have to now devote more of their resources to servicing loans that are predatory in nature and will not be spending it on your business. Congratulations. And that's also going to have a snowball effect on jobs, pay, etc., etc. So if you're happy about this, well, you might want to, be prepared for the economic consequences of these 40 million Americans no longer spending money on things like restaurants, homes, cars, consumer goods, etc., etc. Participating in the economy, which again is primarily consumer spending driven. People have already tightened their belts as a result of inflation. So it's only going to get worse now. And that is going to have an impact on you. So if your business suffers, if your business falters, because you're not able to have as much business because people can't afford to frequent your business, well, don't complain. Don't complain. And certainly, whatever you do, don't turn to the government for help. But of course, they're going to both do that. And here come more articles. Why isn't Gen Z buying diamonds? They just don't understand that we live in an economy that requires people to have money. Yeah. Okay. Oh boy. Conservative Chief Justice John Roberts, in his majority opinion to end Biden's student loan debt relief program, had cited someone unexpected by most, certainly expected by myself and progressives, ex-House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. So now Roberts had cited comments, in his opinion, she made during a press conference with reporters on July 28th of 2021. So, again, if you don't remember this or you haven't heard this, here's Pelosi on whether or not the president can forgive debt.
People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress.
Whoopsie.
Yeah. Okay. So now, obviously, Nancy Pelosi's wrong. And by the way, she later came out to support Biden's plan, but the damage is already done. And I'm going to explain why she was wrong the entire time. And I've said it before, and I've gotten criticized by Democrats for saying that she was wrong at the time. Well, first, let me give you her more current comments about it, at least as of last year, 2022. She said, on Twitter, POTUS' bold action is a strong step in Democrats' fight to expand access to higher education. POTUS, by delivering historic targeted student debt relief to millions of borrowers, more working families will be able to meet their kitchen table needs as they recover from the pandemic. So now that was a correct take. Now, where do you think conservatives, well, obviously we already know what conservatives jumped on and quoted because they used her words, in his opinion, Roberts did, to sink debt relief for 40 million Americans. Hey, Nancy, good job. Well done. Now, again, I've talked about how she's wrong, the court is wrong. Here's why. So now, she says it takes an act of Congress. Well, what do you think the HEROES Act was? 2003, the HEROES Act passed through Congress, says that the Secretary of Education may waive, or modify any statutory or regulatory provision related to federal student loans as may be necessary to ensure that borrowers are not placed in a worse position financially because of a national emergency. COVID was a national emergency. And again, this wasn't completely canceling out the debt. This was waiving a portion of it if you have received, this is all public debt owed to the federal government, waiving a portion of it if you have received Pell Grants, which is, again, part of the Pell Grant program. It was entirely under his authority. Now, as Justice Elena Kagan wrote in her dissent, quote, the question the majority maintains is who has the authority to decide whether such a significant action should go forward. The right answer is the political branches, Congress in broadly authorizing loan relief, which happened, the Secretary and the President in using that authority to implement the forgiveness plan, which the Supreme Court did not allow to go forward because they intervened on some pretty, flimsy pretenses, I should say. The HEROES Act, again, passed by Congress, but Kagan noted that the majority instead says that instead of Congress, who again passed the HEROES Act, the president told the Secretary of Education to waive a certain portion or gave him the power to, waive some of this debt, the Supreme Court stepped in and said, no, this is our decision. We're going to decide whether or not you can actually do this. What does that sound like to me? Judicial activism, legislating from the bench, okay, limiting the president's power because, in my view, he's a member of the opposing party who was trying to use the law as it was to help people as it was supposed to do during a time of an emergency. That's it. Now, here's the other thing, right? So the government didn't have any problem, and the right-wingers, too, they didn't have any problem with the government during COVID issuing paycheck protection loans. Again, this was during an emergency. These businesses borrowed money from the government, okay? And so, it was in order to cover things during this emergency. A lot of big businesses took advantage of this, and the government still forgave a crap ton of these loans. So if they could do that, why can't they, forgive during that same emergency that authorized them to, give all these loans to businesses, which then were forgiven. Why can't they do it for students? Well, because they didn't want to. I think that's pretty obvious. The majority of recipients of PPP loans were gigantic businesses. And of course, the majority of those people who would have their loans forgiven are low-income minorities. In fact, the New York Fed paper back from January noted that those who would stand to benefit the most from the debt payback holiday were younger, have lower credit scores, and live in lower income neighborhoods. So, they also noted that these people would have widespread payment difficulties if payments were to resume without relief. Well, and unfortunately, that's what's going to happen as far as I know. So now, one last thing. To get back to Nancy Pelosi for a second. Remember when she said we needed a strong Republican Party? Well, let me just remind you that this is what a strong Republican Party gets you. It gets you nominations to the Supreme Court. 3 justices that were rammed through the nomination process, who then use her own words to completely undermine your party's president. And, by the way, may have just cost him the next election. There's a lot of people out there who are very, very unhappy with this decision, who are voters, young voters, who might be thinking, you're not going to do anything for me, then I'm not going to do anything for you. Well, and that's disastrous when you're facing re-election. Just think about that. The next time you, try to undermine yourselves. All right. Oh boy. Hits keep coming. All right. On Friday, the Supreme Court decided to make discrimination legal. So now this case, which was decided 6-3 in favor of a web designer in Colorado, officially called 303 Creative versus Alenis, you had a amateur web designer who made up a hypothetical situation in which she would be the victim, and then got the Supreme Court to rule in her favor over it. So now she had asked the court to grant her the right under the First Amendment to refuse service to gay and lesbian couples due to her personal Christian beliefs. So now Smith had also wanted to put up a sign on her website saying no gays allowed. Essentially. So now the thing is, this was a fake case. It was not actually real, but will have real consequences. First off, she had not been actually hired to make any website for a same-sex couple, and had never, therefore, refused any such work. Never been asked for it. And in fact, she wasn't even ever, she has never even made a wedding website. She's just thinking about it. And then, in her ruminations, she thought, oh man, what if a gay person asked me to make a website for them? Ooh, that would be terrible. Oh gosh, I really would like to discriminate against them. I guess I'll sue. And that's what happened. So now, she claimed that Colorado's Anti-Discrimination Act, which prohibits denial of goods, services, or facilities because of disability, race, creed, color, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, marital status, national origin, or ancestry, violated her First Amendment rights by requiring her to take commissions, theoretical, hypothetical commissions, with what she said was a message she did not agree with, specifically websites celebrating the wedding of a same-sex couple. So this is petty. So let me see what. Let me explain what I should say. If you're someone who's so bigoted, and that's what this is. Let's not sugarcoat it. Okay, let's not say it's anything other than she is a bigot. She does not like gay people. She does not want to do a service for gay people. It is not about her, my personal religious beliefs. No, if it was about that, then she probably wouldn't be wearing mixed fibers or eating shellfish. It's not about her religion. I mean, imagine her making a website about shrimp. Would she be complaining about that? No, it only has to do with gay people being a bigot. Let's be clear about what she actually is. Okay? So, now, if you didn't want to make wedding websites for gay people, then don't get into the wedding website business. Okay? And it's really simple. I mean, I like to think about it as like, if you're a Muslim butcher and you don't want to touch pork, then you shouldn't be a butcher. Or work at a place that serves pork. Simple as that. I mean, it's not really difficult here. And I know there are people out there that are crying, but my religious beliefs, fuck your religion. I'm going to say it. Your religion does not give you a right to discriminate against people for immutable characteristics. Okay? Simple as that. And look, I'm getting super tired of having to coddle certain religious people. Not all religious people. In fact, the vast majority of religious people are good, decent people. And good, decent, accepting, loving, wonderful, warm people. I'm talking about the minority here. The minority, the fundamentalists of all stripes, all different religions. Okay? Y'all are the problem. You're the most sensitive snowflakes on the damn planet. You're trying to push your religious beliefs on everyone else. Now, I know I'm going to piss people off by saying this, but turns out I got news for you. Your religion is your choice, but being gay is not a choice. Being gay is an immutable characteristic. Okay? That's it. That's it. Religion, you can choose to believe whatever religion you want. You can convert, whatever. You can believe in whatever gods or goddesses or masses of noodly pasta that you want. But what you can't do in America is use that religion to deprive people of their civil rights, of goods and services who do not share your religion. I'm tired of people walking around with, I like to call it, a literal God complex, thinking that everybody's got to sit there and follow your rules of your God. No, you're not God. Sit down. If you feel icky about serving gay people, number one, you're a bigot. And number two, go do something else. Go do something else that doesn't offend your little sensibilities. Okay? Your weak, pathetic little sensibilities. And that's what it is. You're the weakest person on the planet. Again, she wasn't even asked to make a website for a gay wedding. That entire case, purely hypothetical. The plaintiff had claimed that she was asked by a gay couple to create a website for a wedding, but they had actually pulled that information off the internet. We're talking address, name, phone number, all that stuff. Now, this website, or I should say this information, belonged to a couple who were already married. Yes, they were a gay couple, and they were already married, had no need of a website. In fact, one of them also does web design himself. But they took this and they forged an inquiry using their information and then sued over it. In fact, a reporter from the New Republic contacted one of those people and asked him about his inquiry to 303 Creative. And he said, I never sent one. I don't know what you're talking about. And this is the first time I've ever heard of it. So you took that public information, phone number, email address, website, forged a form, then used that form in an official court filing in order to claim that your religious liberty has been violated when no such violation had ever occurred. Yeah, this is again, conservative victimhood complex. 100%. You made up a hypothetical situation to then claim you have been victimized by something that never even happened. Let me ask you, who's the snowflake now, bitch? Looks like it's you. Total martyr complex. Total martyr complex. But unfortunately, with the help of the Alliance Defending Bigotry, freedom, technically, and the ideologically conservative Supreme Court, Smith is now allowed to legally discriminate if she wants to. Now it's legal. And by the way, not just her, but now anyone. Anyone. In fact, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, in her dissent, wrote this, quote, 5 years ago, this court recognized the general rule that religious and philosophical objections to gay marriage do not allow business owners and other actors in the economy and society to deny protected persons equal access to goods and services under a neutral and generally applicable public accommodations law. So this was the decision of the wedding cake. Today, she said, the court, for the first time in its history, grants a business open to the public a constitutional right to refuse to serve members of a protected class. By issuing this new license to discriminate, in a case brought by a company that seeks to deny same-sex couples the full and equal enjoyment of its services, the immediate symbolic effect of the decision is to mark gays and lesbians for second-class status. In this way, the decision itself inflicts a kind of stigmatic harm, on top of any harm caused by the denials of service, because that's ultimately not what it's about. So don't be confused in saying that, oh, it's just about like, oh, I didn't get this website or this cake that I wanted. No. It's beyond that. It's far beyond that. The opinion of the court is, Sotomayor continues, quite literally a notice that reads, some services may be denied to same-sex couples. And it starts with cakes, starts with websites. Where does it end? Can you imagine it extending to healthcare? Oh, wait, it already does, in a way. For example, you've had states that have banned gender-affirming care. Now, in that case, it's the government preventing doctors from treating gender dysphoria in young adults. So that's the government, right? Well, now you also, in addition to that, will have businesses that have decided, I don't want to serve certain people. For example, a hospital that doesn't want to treat trans people because of their religious beliefs. Or, well, we've already seen hospitals that are denying medically necessary abortions to women. And it wasn't just because of Roe v. Wade. It wasn't, or the reversal of Roe v. Wade, but also in places where we're a religious institution here, and we don't think that we should have to grant abortions here. It's already happening. Both government and now private enterprise are able to discriminate against people based on their own religion and prevent people from getting goods and services. Now, this particular decision, this was an attempt to erase the LGBTQ community from being able to engage in commerce and therefore live in our modern society. That's what it is. Make no mistake about it. As HuffPost notes, Friday's much broader ruling opens the door for more discrimination. Other businesses with an expressive service could be permitted to discriminate against LGBTQ plus people should they claim that providing their services constitutes speech or messaging that they disagree with. The court's decision to open the door to any business that claims to provide customized services to discriminate against historically marginalized groups, says the ACLU director David Cole. He also adds, the decision is fundamentally misguided. Well, I don't think they care if it's misguided or not, because that's the entire point. In 2023, the Supreme Court has legalized discrimination based on sexual orientation, immutable characteristics. And this comes, by the way, ironically, just a day after the court claimed they eliminated discrimination against white people in ending racial consideration when it comes to college admissions, which again, actually, ironically, affirmative action benefited white women a lot. And in places where they had actually gotten rid of it, like in California, you saw the number of admissions to these Ivy League schools drop dramatically and drastically. But hey, you can see the pattern here. Getting rid of alleged discrimination against white people, which they, again, conservatives claim that they're victimized, and then legalizing discrimination against LGBTQ people. To say that this court is not ideologically driven is to be ignoring reality. Okay. Moving on. Let's try to, well, yeah, I don't think we're going to really lighten that up. But we will make fun of Trump. So I guess we'll do that. Former President Donald Trump had claimed that he had issued a standing order to declassify documents that he had taken to Mar-a-Lago. Now, the problem is, no one can seem to find it. In fact, according to Bloomberg, the standing order could not be found by either the Justice Department or Office of Director of National Intelligence. So, you got our intelligence agencies looking for that standing order. Can't seem to find it. So now, the disclosure, by the agencies was made in response to a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit filed last August by Bloomberg News, which sued ODNI and the Justice Department's National Security Division for a copy of Donald Trump's standing order. So, government attorneys confirmed this in a letter sent Thursday to Bloomberg News that each agency possesses no records responsive to your request about the existence of a declassification standing order. You know, again, the thing that Trump said definitely exists. I declassified it. I declassified everything. Okay, well, where's the proof of that? I don't have it. Nobody has it.
Whoopsie.
The government was compelled to make the disclosure about the standing order after a judge in a similar case in Massachusetts ordered the agency to say whether or not the standing order or records referencing it exist. Once again, we know no order exists whatsoever.
Whoopsie.
Now, look, that's important because Donald Trump on August 12th, a few days after the FBI's search on August 8th last year, Trump claimed that the records taken by the FBI were all his and had been declassified. That evening, the standing order defense was used by John Solomon, a journalist who Trump designated to speak for him on the case. So, well, without a standing order, that means that these, things were not declassified at all. Oops. Now, look, U.S. presidents can declassify any document at will. The problem is you have to let people know about it. Yes, you actually have to have a standing order. You have to have it be memorialized in writing and shared with the intelligence community specifically the Office of Director of National Intelligence, as well as the agency that classified the document in the first place, which in this case would be, in the case of the Iran thing, the attack plans against Iran, I should say, that Donald Trump was caught bragging about having on tape, and showing other people, allegedly showing other people, but definitely bragging about having it and it being there and being classified, and having him, admit that I shouldn't be showing this to you. I shouldn't be telling you this because this is classified information that I didn't declassify. Oops. Yes. It's just not there. It doesn't exist. That's it. Now, again, here's the thing about all of this. He had the power. He just didn't do it. He didn't use it when he had the chance. Could have declassified it. Could have had that standing order. But he didn't do it because he's a moron. He created this problem himself. It could have been so easily avoided. All of this. But he decided, no, not going to do it. Well, I've only got one thing to say about that. Stupid. Okay. So let's move on. All right. Transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney has broken her silence over the transphobic attacks against her by the right in a video where she accuses Anheuser-Busch, the parent company of Bud Light, of essentially throwing her under the bus.
I should have made this video months ago, but I didn't. And I was scared, and I was scared of more backlash, and I felt personally guilty for what transpired, so I patiently waited for things to get better. But surprise, they haven't really. And I was waiting for the brand to reach out to me, but they never did. And for months now, I've been scared to leave my house. I have been ridiculed in public. I've been followed. And I have felt a loneliness that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And I'm not telling you this because I want your pity. I am telling you this because if this is my experience from a very privileged perspective, know that it is much, much worse for other trans people. For a company to hire a trans person and then not publicly stand by them is worse, in my opinion, than not hiring a trans person at all, because it gives customers permission to be as transphobic and hateful as they want. And the hate doesn't end with me. It has serious and grave consequences for the rest of our community. And we're customers too.
All right. So, first off, the level of just discussing attacks against her is just unfathomable. I couldn't imagine. But then knowing that the people who put you in that spotlight, again, they signed a deal with Bud Light. They sent her one promotional can with her face on it, and she made a video about it and posted it online. And then everything just went completely old to hell. And to know that the company that signed you for that promotional deal does not have your back is just horrifying. So now that right there is the best example that I can give you of rainbow capitalism. I've talked about this before, where companies will pretend to be on the side of LGBTQ people during Pride. And of course, all of this happened before Pride, to be fair. But, they'll change their logos. Oh, we're LGBTQ friendly, and they'll hire a transgender influencer, on social media, do brand deals and things like that. But again, when they get any sort of pushback, they cave, they cower, because they didn't actually care about about trans people, about this issue at all. They saw it as simply a marketing technique. That's it. Hey, let's get some cool points with the younger kids by being not hateful towards LGBTQ people. You know, that seems to be the rage. That's the bee's knees, not being transphobic. Yes, let's sign a deal with this person and pretend that we're on their side. Yes, yes. While we, of course, give money to some of the most abhorrent people, politicians that are passing massively anti-gay laws all across the country. But, you know, they won't know that if we're publicly professing to be on the side of trans people. Look, this is why I despise rainbow capitalism. Again, they sign a deal with her. She gets backlash by a bunch of disgusting bigots. And then what happens? They slink into the bushes. InBev, Anheuser-Busch InBev. They slink into the bushes like Homer Simpson in that meme. Just go on. Go on. And they leave her to twist in the wind by herself. Again, she makes the best point where she says it would have been better had they not hired me or a trans person at all. Prior to this, at least I can speak only for myself on this. I didn't know who Dylan Mulvaney was. I think a lot of people didn't, especially right-wingers. They didn't know who she was. But she got, targeted. Enough people. Now, by the way, this is not to diminish her at all. By the way, her success on, I believe it was Instagram. I don't go on Instagram, so that's probably why I don't know. She had a thing. She obviously had a ton of supporters beforehand, had fans, enough for Anheuser-Busch to reach out to her. So obviously, much more popular on that platform than I am on pretty much any platform. And so, again, not diminishing her at all by saying that I have no idea who she was and that a lot of people that I know had no idea who she was. But she had her own thing, and it was super successful enough for, again, businesses to reach out and ask for these promotional deal. But unfortunately, again, it did not turn out well because the right wing bigots, Matt Walsh, Kid Rock, Donald Trump, all these people targeted her. And there was a gigantic, target placed on her back. It got stupidly insane. First stupid and then incredibly crazy and scary. Again, people like Kid Rock taking these, Bud Light cans. I mean, first you have people pouring them down the sink, going, I don't like Bud Light anymore. Okay, well, that's your thing. Whatever, right? You're going to waste your money? Fine. But then it got stupid and insane and crazy. Kid Rock getting cases and shooting them with a gun. And then it turned into people harassing other people for buying what they assumed was Bud Light. People going into the stores and smashing display cases, threatening workers, calling into factories and threatening them. Just complete and utter insanity because of these people. And what did Anheuser-Busch do? They did nothing. They did nothing. Full retreat. Rainbow capitalism. That's it. They thought they could capitalize on making a deal with a trans influencer. And when the bigots push back, as they inevitably do, this company folds like a cheap suit. It's disgusting. So now Anheuser-Busch made a response after this video was released. And of course, just like their beer, pretty weak sauce. I said it. Quote, as we've said, we remain committed to the programs and partnerships we have forged over decades with organizations across a number of communities, including those in the LGBTQ+ community. The privacy and safety of our employees and partners is always our top priority. As we move forward, we will focus on what we do best, brewing great beer for everyone and earning our place in the moments that matter to our consumers.
Beta male.
So, complete and utter bland, corporatized BS statement. It says nothing. It does not address Mulvaney. It doesn't even mention her name. Now, look, the only thing that I can understand from this, that I can go, okay, sure, is when it comes to the safety of employees and partners. Yeah, I don't want store employees being assaulted by some right-wing lunatic that's mad because there was one single can with a trans person's face on it. I don't want workers being assaulted. Of course not. But you know what? You have to protect them, not by abandoning transgender people. And so that's what's important here. Yes, we should protect workers. Of course we should protect 100%. Should also, there's nothing that prevents you from protecting workers and trans people at the same time. Trans people are also workers, by the way. And as she mentioned, trans people are also enjoyers of beer. Why can't you protect them all? Oh, but that would be hard. Oh, too difficult. Too difficult for us. In fact, they don't even protect their workers at all from anything. So, and look, by the way, the last thing I'm going to say is something that she mentioned, right? It's not about Dylan Mulvaney herself. Yes, she's an important part of the story. She's a catalyst here for this discussion. But as she mentions, she says, I have privilege here. She makes that admission, and I appreciate that, and says that this isn't just about me. This is about trans people. This is about representation. This is about people who, don't have a platform and don't have power. Those are the people that are being affected the most. And what the message being sent by Anheuser-Busch, InBev, is that we will not protect you when the right wing comes for you. When the right wing launches their intimidation campaigns, we will not be there for you. We will not protect you. We will protect ourselves and the bottom line. And that's it. This intimidation campaign absolutely worked. You can call it a boycott if you want to. Doesn't really matter to me. I say it's an intimidation campaign because they were doing far more than just not buying beer. They were intimidating people and attacking people who were. And again, that message being sent that we're not going to have your back, I'm pretty sure the LGBTQ community is going to remember that. And any ally worth their salt is also going to remember that going forward. And we should never let them forget it. It's an absolute betrayal. Okay. Moving on, last story, cops being bad. Sounds redundant, though, doesn't it? Okay. The West Virginia State Police Department is being accused of putting hidden cameras into the women's locker room and shower. That's right. So now that's just one accusation being levied against the West Virginia State Police Department in a lawsuit filed against them involving 70 different women involving as well as minors. So having, again, female recruits, bad enough being spied on. But this also involved minors. Plaintiff in the lawsuit, identified as Jane Doe, is described as a current state police employee who was, quote, known to have been videotaped while using the female shower and locker facilities at the training academy, according to CNN. Jane Doe's lawyer, Teresa Torseva, is also representing about 7 other women, including minors, who participated in a junior program at the academy and have made similar allegations. So now, wait a minute. These minors who are in this program, who were spied on, who have, again, made these allegations, made similar allegations. Why is this not all over the right wing? Why is the right wing not talking about these groomers in the police department that are creeping on young girls, little girls, teen girls, Why are they not saying, wow, look at those groomers in the West Virginia State Police Department? And none of these people, by the way, these are all cops. They're not drag queens. They're not members of the LGBTQ community. Oh, that's probably why they're not mentioning that. Oh, they're not talking about this at all. No, of course not. So now Officer Brenda Lesnett, who's among one of the first women to speak out about the scandal and who had actually graduated from the academy back in 2016, she said that she was shocked and appalled to learn about the recordings. She said, "The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Sitting here today, I still feel exposed. And I'm constantly wondering, who's going to see me next? Who has already seen me? It's very nerve-wracking." I can't imagine the just the violation that you would feel as a result of this. I mean, just disgusting. Megan Talkington, who discouraged her daughter from becoming a police officer due to the culture at the academy, said this: "I would tell her no, I would not want my daughter to walk the halls of the West Virginia State Police Academy until there is reform. I just don't think she'd be safe." Both Talkington and Lesnett say they fear being retaliated against for speaking out, which, again, to me, wouldn't be surprising if they were. In fact, look, none of this is surprising. I mean, really? Now, Torseva, the lawyer, said, "This is a hostile, misogynistic, toxic environment that's just not just male-dominated, it is literally anti-woman. Quote, we think that the story that has been told is not the full story, that it's much worse, that there were more people involved. We think there's a cultural problem." Well, on that, I 100% agree. There is a cultural problem in policing. And it's not just in West Virginia. Yes, certainly here, but pretty much everywhere. And a cultural problem in the police that extends far beyond how they treat women in their own ranks. Because again, if they're doing this to the women in their own ranks, what do you think they're doing to the women that they're supposed to serve and protect? Again, there are people here that are minorities, that are the impoverished. What do you think these cops are doing to them? I mean, they don't protect them, they protect property. And that's their main job. And again, that goes part of the cultural, partly to the cultural rot within our, nation's policing overall. Of course, it's always been a boys' club. Doesn't make it right. It just makes it even more imperative that this system get knocked down and replaced with something that is far different and actually does serve people. But as far as, again, property, one more interesting thing that I've noticed about this, right? So it doesn't surprise me that, again, with police protecting generally property, that some of them would consider women who are supposed to be, again, partners, people that, are, supposed to be equals on the force, to be their property as well. It's just no surprise to me that this is happening. It is an absolutely corrupted institution. The same PD in Louisville where Breonna Taylor was killed also had this same problem. True. All right. There we go. That is all I have today. And we are right up against the hour, so that's good timing. All right, before I head out, I want to read some super chats, member comments, and of course, give an update for next week, and give you the rundown of what's going to happen. First, Dango Bangle, with a member comment here saying, "We can legally discriminate against Republicans now." Leave it to Dango Bangle to see the silver lining in what is an already incredibly dark cloud. The eternal optimist. He's an optimist. He's in his prime. Actually, sorry, I think I assumed your gender. They're an optimist and they're in their prime. Apologies. Let's see. Tyler Heckner says, I did hear Biden say he was planning to bypass SCOTUS and invoke Higher Education Act of 1965. I will report it, believe it when I see it, because I don't know. I don't know. I know that there's discussion about it, but again, I don't have any details on what he actually plans on doing. So I heard that, but again, I'm not reporting on anything that's not super concrete, and whether or not he's actually going to do that. Okay. The Brown note, member comment, says, consider having Aroun Brown for a Friday show, and then adds,
whoopsie.
Yeah, I'll look into that. Next Friday, of course, will be a Humanist Report. Mike Figueretto, bringing him on the show. Gonna be a lot of fun. Straw Carpenter says, enjoy your time off. Yes, on that. So for the holiday week, I'm going to be off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, be back on Thursday of next week. So that should be fun. Some very much, needed rest and relaxation for a couple of days. And then back, of course, for, more shenanigans, and then Mike Figueretto. So not only that, but also on Monday night, that's 9:30 p.m. EST, I will be on with Letterhack, who will be doing an interview of me and also drawing my portrait. So it should be fun. Should be a lot of fun. Okay, so with that, let's go over here to our Twitch community as well. Thank you, Twitch community. Don't judge Chuff's boss. He's taking an extra day. Yeah, I hate for that guy to know. Of course, look, that guy's generally full of shit anyway. You know what I'm saying? That boss of mine, tells me to do something, but then if I don't do it, never get punished. Weird. Says he drives a type shit, but again, full of shit. Okay. Anyway. Thank you, everybody. Have a great holiday. We'll see you back here on Thursday of next week. Love you all, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you next week.
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever.
No.
Disappointed!
Jewish space lasers.
Whoopsie. Whoopsie.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Jewish space lasers.
USA. USA.